The Advocate in Baton Rouge says rising waters have broken every record. Flooding since Friday is responsible for at least 7 deaths. More than 11,000 people are homeless, and much of the southern portion of the state is under a flood warning.
This is the radar estimated total. You can see the color coordinated legend at the top of your screen, that shading of white, indicating 500 or more millimeters of rain. And this has significant impacts on the rivers and streams across Louisiana. They all flow into the Gulf of Mexico, of course. This is interesting. This is a flood gauge from the Comite River, and I want you to see that rapid rise in the river. It actually rose 25 feet in 12 hours. And that, my friend, is called flash flooding.
But once again, the unprecedented flood catastrophe in Louisiana leads off our newscast. Despite a welcome break in the rain, new areas are underwater tonight as floodwaters move downstream. While in already hard-hit places, displaced residents are returning home to see what is left.
So this is now being called the Great Flood of 2016 after historic flooding submerged neighborhoods in the Baton Rouge and Lafayette areas just over a week ago. At least 13 deaths with tens of thousands more displaced. The relief effort alone, according to the Red Cross, will likely top $30 million in what's already being called the worst natural disaster since Superstorm Sandy in 2012.
In Livingston Parish, 3/4 of the buildings are destroyed. More than 4 trillion gallons of torrential rain. All this water has nowhere else to go, so it's flowing south down these rivers and bayous, devastating more communities in its path.
I had been in Minneapolis, Minnesota on a trip. Started getting the weather alerts from here back home and looking at it, and I said, well, we're getting a lot of rain. And of course, first thing I do is check our river stages in Killian to see what the river looks like. And the river was favorable. It was actually a little bit low, and the wind wasn't out of the southeast, which is normally a big negative for us. So I really wasn't thinking too much of it. I flew in to New Orleans the Thursday night in the rain, and I came home and was supposed to go back to New Orleans Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the Louisiana State Firemen's Convention. And when I woke up Friday morning, I started hearing a lot of chatter on the radio. It sounded like things were getting kind of bad. So I called the fire chief from Livingston number 4, and he said they needed help. So I canceled my plans to go to the convention and loaded up in our 5-ton truck and went to the Satsuma Walker area and immediately started rescuing people from their homes.
Chief sends a text message out to us, hey, I need everybody at Station 1. I'm like, all right, I'll be there in a few minutes. I need you now. All right. We went up to go assist District 4 in Walker. We get up there and we obviously all had never seen something like this in our entire lives. We both compared it to something like Katrina. The first call we get is a guy and once out of his house, he has, I think, 2 feet of water in his house. He had back surgery. Me and Chief, we get on scene, and I jump out the truck, and first thing I'm thinking is, man, I got boots, I'm good. Jump in the water, nope, never mind, boots filled with water. It's gonna be a wet day. From the time we got there, it was up to my waist, and to the time we went back around to go through a 3rd time, it was up to my chest. And it was rising pretty quickly, and I looked at him like, we're not gonna come through here again.
Friday afternoon, Friday evening, I came in and I had some training at State Police that day, and I was trying to make my way back to the area and realized that there was a major problem. The interstates were closed, and it wasn't just gonna be a normal rainstorm. And so I got back over here, started listening to a lot of the radio traffic. I think at that point, Chief was over helping the folks around Dem Springs, and I can hear one of our other districts up in the northern part of the parish around Independence. They're calling on the radio begging for help. I think at one point they had about 50 people at their fire station just because they had nowhere else to bring them. And I called Brian on the radio and asked him if he had heard what was going on in District 11. He said no, because he had been working on their communications over in the western part of the parish. And that's when we realized that this isn't just a localized event, and it's not just going to be a little rainstorm, that it's something much, much more critical and more important.
I didn't realize how big this was going to be for a long time. All day long we were just driving in 4 or 5 feet of water, taking people out to safety. The rain kept falling nonstop, and you could start hearing other fire departments calling for help in the area, in the parish. I said, wow, this is getting a little bigger than we thought, and the rain kept falling. Then the rainfall estimates in the beginning were 5 to 8 inches. Well, it kept increasing as the day went on, and that night, about 9 o'clock, I left the Walker area and went to north of Albany, and that's where the reality really hit me, because I'm from that area. And at 1:30 in the morning, we had 2 to 3 feet of water running down Highway 43, about 3 or 4 miles north of Albany. I knew then that we were in trouble. You know, Springfield was in big trouble. Everybody's in trouble. So I called my wife and I said, wake everybody up. We know we're not ready for this, and there's no way to prepare for what's happening.
August 12th was the first day that I really realized what was going on. It had been raining, it seemed a lot, for it was like just drizzly, not so much pouring rain. And right after I had a half day on Friday, got a text from my 13-year-old daughter, and she said, hey, are we gonna go help with sandbags at the church? And I didn't really understand what she was talking about, because I didn't know that it was gonna be that bad. I didn't know that the weather was so bad. And when I started to head home, I told her, I said, yeah, we'll go help. So I put out the word to some friends to come help with sandbags, and before you know it, we were, the whole community was trying to rally together to sandbag not just the church, but everywhere. And I was really caught off guard personally by how serious it was. As time went on, we stayed there the whole evening until we ran out of sand, and then the next day, we put out a call on Facebook asking people to come help do more sandbags. And it wasn't just for the church, it was for everywhere, because people were just coming up and getting it from the church.
Hey everybody, we're looking for some help out here at Woodland Baptist Church. If y'all get a chance to come out, come give us a hand. Basically, any manpower we can get, shovels, we got the bags, we just need the manpower. Y'all come and see us, thank you.
Once the water got high enough, we knew we had to back out of the Lizard Creek area and come back towards Springfield so we weren't blocked off from our homes. So I started telling the folks there that, we were getting word from Springfield that they're going to eventually shut down Blood River Road. We need to come back to Springfield. So we kind of stopped where we were at and we headed back to the fire station, and we started doing sandbags out there.
I just thought it was going to be a normal rainstorm. Water always comes up around my house when it rains the slightest bit. In March, the highest it got was to the second or third step on our porch. I really wasn't worried about it. I thought it was just going to be another rainstorm. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to a friend's house, no big sweat. So I packed my bag, and little did I realize that's all I'd end up bringing with me and all I'd end up saving.
I was at work. It was really a heavy rainy day at work, and we had a flood here in March. My wife and I had decided then that the next time the water started coming up, she was going to get out and go to our daughter's house. So as she was headed out, she called me and said, the water's flowing, it's moving. And usually the floods around here, the water comes up, it goes down, and it's just that. To have it flowing through was unique. Then after work, I come in on Highway 22, and it's like that. The water's just a couple of inches at this point, but it's flowing rapidly across the road. And I was able to make it into town, but it wasn't long after that the water came up and it wasn't passable to get back out.
People started showing up here, not just to get sandbags, but to help people who needed them. And that was without any call for help. They were just showing up. And we had worked for so long. We had started at like 8 in the morning, and we were doing sandbags until I guess we probably stopped around 3 or 4 in the evening. And the only reason we stopped is because we ran out of sand again. Once that crowd dispersed and everybody kind of went on their way, I came into the fire station and everybody had left. Y'all were all gone, and I was here kind of by myself. And I remember that somebody said Brian was up in Albany helping people. And at that moment, I still didn't understand how high the water was.
We pull in to a station at Albany. Their chief comes up to us. We got to go north on 43. All right, no problem. We go up to District 11's area. They said they had like 75 to 100 people trapped, well, at their station, and they're holding everybody there.
At some point, I ended up in Albany, and the mission was to go up Pea Ridge Road, hit 442, and come over to Crossroads and go up to District 11 to get, at this point, probably 75 people out of their fire station and back to dry land at Albany, which we assumed was going to stay dry. Come to find out later, that wasn't exactly going to be the case, but that was the mission.
I'm from Albany originally, and I remember the '83 flood. I remember the river, the Albany River, being over the Highway 190 bridge just east of the town limits. That was really the gist of it. You had your low areas there, but to see a foot of water at the red light in Albany, at Highway 190 and Highway 43 where they intersect, and 3 feet of water at the fire station right in the middle of town. That, in every direction you looked, there was water.
And we made it up to Highway 442, and there was an area that wasn't exactly dry, but they had about 6 inches of water on the road, and we see people shining flashlights at us. And so we stopped and we'd get out, and there was 30 people standing there in the road wanting to get out. They had come out of their house and they were just standing in the road because that was the driest land around. So we took them, put them in one of the guard trucks, and was going to go down and send that guard truck out with these people. And then we went up, I don't know, a quarter of a mile, and we see more people shining flashlights. And there was about 6 houses there, mobile homes that were sitting up probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 foot off the ground. And so we all went out in pairs and 3 people and went to each house to knock on doors, and this is 12 o'clock at night. And I remember the house that I walked up to, they had a deck on the front of their house, and it was about waist height. And when I walked up, the water was at the bottom of the top step of their deck. So I walk up on their deck, knock on the door, hey, with the fire department, we're getting people out. If you'd like to get out, this is a great opportunity. We don't know when we'll be back. So they said they wanted to get out. We spent about 10 minutes for them to gather some things and start getting out. And in that 10 minutes, as they were finally walking out, the water was about 1.5 inches from getting in their mobile home. It had come up about 1 foot in 15 minutes.
So we did get some National Guard trucks. Fire District 7 and Fire District 9 sent their trucks to Albany as well. And then we all went to try and evacuate people from the fire station north of Albany to get them to Albany to a shelter. He had over 100 people trapped on a hill at the District 11 fire station. And what was happening, the chief up there has a 5-ton just like ours. He was bringing people from the homes and dropping them off at the fire station as fast as he could get back to them to get them out of their homes. The problem is we couldn't get them people from the fire station to a shelter because there were no shelters. Every shelter we normally use was flooding.
And the phone was ringing here, and I got a phone call from a lady that said, hey, we're on 4th Street. Can you come help us get out? We want to get out. And it was starting to really hit me at that moment. And I think I called Brian on the radio, and I was like, Chief, there's people calling asking to get them out, and there's people here at the fire station wanting to know if they can help. Brian said, go do it. Go help them. So we did. These 3 guys from Bell Chase, they brought a boat. I don't know where they came from or how they found us. They just said, hey, we want to help out. What can we do? I said, well, Chief just said, let's go do it. So we loaded up, and we went, and the road on Main Street was blocked past the Whitney Bank. So we went past the football field, and the water was coming up right there pretty high. And I thought to myself, I said, man, it's insane to see this much water in Springfield, even as much as we flood, as often as we flood. Well, I noticed the pastor from the First Baptist Church, who is a pretty awesome dude. That guy was walking, and he had chest waders on, and he was walking down the street, passing up all these trucks with boats and everything, and all these people were doing sandbags on both sides of the road. Water was coming up, and this dude is walking past all this really slow moving traffic. The pastor was coming to get a lady from his congregation who wouldn't leave her daughter. Her daughter was beside herself and just wasn't able to process what was really going on. The house was full of water, and instead of just going to safety, she's just wandering in the water. And her mom wouldn't leave her, and because the mom wouldn't leave her, the pastor wouldn't leave the mom.
The most memorable call that I remember, or response I remember, was Josh texted me and said, "There's a mother with a newborn walking down the road. Y'all need to get to her now." And that was on Blood River Road. So we loaded up, and the way it worked was we'd go out to this one place, and before you ever got there, you'd fill your boat up with other people waiting on the side of the road, waiting to get back to safety. And then you come back, bring them back, and then you'd go and try to get to your original destination. But we ended up making it to her. When she got in the boat with her baby, all they had was a little garbage bag. And amazingly, the baby slept through the entire airboat ride, the whole way back to Springfield.
When we went to George Settlement Road, the water was nowhere to be found. It was dry. There were people out there barbecuing. And I even drove by, and one lady that I know saw me and said, "Josh Randall, what you doing?" I said, "We're going to help get people out of their houses in the terrace. Y'all be ready. The water's coming up." Well, we got around, passed up the new high school site, and I took a picture of that. I said, "Man, at least it's high and dry. Nothing wrong here." When we got past 3-way-1 stop was when we saw the water just starting to come over the road across from the AMVETS. And it was shocking to me. Well, we figured we would just back in the truck, launch the boat, and leave the truck and go do what we could. So we launched, I guess, Center, whatever the next street is. We got in on that street, and first thing we noticed was some dogs that were still tied up. The people had left, and we cut them loose. And we let those dogs go, but they wouldn't leave us. They followed us. So we went up taking them in the boat with us and going on back, went all the way back to 4th Street, and we got a few folks out, and the lady said, "What about my neighbor with all the dogs?" And we were piled up with people and dogs, and we made one trip out to the highway, back to Highway 42, and when we dropped them off, it was like the dogs still wanted to come with us. They wouldn't leave us and stay there. Well, we wound up letting we put some dog food out that another lady had and left those dogs there. And the significance of the dog food was how high the water rose. Because I put the dog food on dry land and poured it on the ground so the dogs would stay. And we left. We made one trip down a straight road and we came right back. That was on Center Street. When we came back, the dog food was gone, the dogs were nowhere to be found, and the water was already up to the truck where we parked. So it was rising really fast. And in that last trip, we picked up the pastor who went to go get some folks from his congregation. And at that moment, I think he understood and was much wiser to the situation than I was. He said, "We're gonna need to send people somewhere, tell people," because he knew I would get it out, get the word out, that we'll take people to First Baptist Church. And on the spot, the guy made a decision to let people come to the First Baptist Church, which wound up being pivotal for this community, because he made a gut decision at that moment that will play out for the next several weeks. And basically, I did a live Facebook feed from right there on the boat, and I told him, I said, "Tell people whatever you need to tell them." And people were logging in while I was live. They were tuning into that on the spot and responding as we were doing it. And he just told him, he's like, "Hey, if you need safety, if you need a place to go, we'll be taking people at the church, at the First Baptist Church in Springfield." I don't think any of us thought the water was going to get as high as it did, but by the grace of God, that water stopped just before that church.
All right, so we're in Springfield on Center Street, and we're just going around trying to help pull people out. We got a boat, some gentlemen from Bell Chase, and we're going up and down the road just trying to help anybody we can. The water is very high. Very, very heartbreaking. Pastor Richard Sandberg here from First Baptist Church of Springfield, and he's got a little message he wants to give to you guys, so here it is.
We're going to be hosting people at the church, and we need some supplies. If you have some extra food or water, blankets or pillows, please bring it by First Baptist Church of Springfield. to help everyone who's been displaced, who will be staying there at the church.
Hey everyone, if you're looking to help out in the community of Springfield, Pastor Richard Sandberg has some ideas for you, so he's going to take us on a little tour and tell us about what's going on.
Tomorrow morning, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 p.m., we're going to be opening up a distribution center for our community. We're asking all volunteers to come at 8 o'clock for a briefing and how you can help. We'll walk you through what we're going to be doing for the community together. And we have blankets and we have bedding. We have men's, babies, women's clothing. We have toiletry items, diapers, all of the things that you may need. Some batteries. After we come through this section, you'll lead them to this next room with the grocery items.
I had been in Albany helping evacuate people up there all night, the Friday night and Saturday till just after lunch. And I received a call from Josh that things were, the phones are starting to ring at the station. Because I would check in and say, hey, when I'm needed, I'm coming back. And saw that it was definitely time to come back south. So I came down with the big truck. One of the biggest concerns we had was where we going to put all these folks, because I started driving out Highway 42 and there were just people standing everywhere on the highway with some with just plastic grocery bags. That's all they had time to get out of their homes. And I had no place to bring them. And when he called and said that the pastor at the church said bring them to the church, it was definitely an answered prayer, because we didn't know what to do. There were no shelters down here. The buildings that we've historically used for shelters were flooded. So the church has definitely played a major part in the success of our operation.
We came back through and the water was even higher by the football field. It was completely across the road at that point. It wasn't on both sides, it was completely across. And when we got into town, we just came back here and we just started answering the phones at the fire station. And I didn't understand at the time that 911 was out and that 911 had already been out for a while. So we weren't receiving emergency calls. We were receiving calls from people who were in the know enough to get that station phone number. And I just started tallying any kind of information anybody gave me. I had folks from out of state. My sister was in Texas monitoring her Facebook feed, and she saw people that were in distress. She would text me or snapshot that to me, and I would write it down and create a mission off of it. And pretty much for the next day or so, every time someone came up, and I don't know how they got to us here, because if the water was up everywhere, there was some pretty tough guys that were showing up with boats saying, what can I do to help? Where can I go? What can I do? We just started creating missions. We were sending people out there to do what they could. There were guys that were showing up out of the blue, and I could almost read it on their face. They were just like, hey, I'm not from here, but I want to help. What can I do? And all I could do is say, give me your phone. I'd key in an address into their Google Maps or something and say, here, go here. There's a guy here, this old, in a wheelchair, needs help. Do what you can. Come back and let me know if you get it. That went on. It felt like a few hours, but it was really 2 days.
That night, I don't think I ended up falling asleep until that, or getting a little bit of sleep until that next morning around like 5. Yeah, around like 5 or 6. I ended up getting 2 or 3 hours, and that's when we got a call saying we had more people trapped in Carter Plantation, and that's when they went and started doing rescues over there.
There was a sheriff's department asset that was sitting at our facility, and I guess through all the confusion, we were cut off. They were cut off from being able to use this airboat, and when tough times come calling, you got to do what you got to do, and sometimes just the right person is in the right situation, and this particular guy, he doesn't back down, and when he pulled up in his work truck, I kind of knew we're about to see something happen here. We got this asset sitting on our lawn, and what's going to happen next, we don't know. He asked me, he said, what's up with the airboat? And I said, well, it belongs to the sheriff's office. They're cut off. They're probably not going to be able to get to it right now. He said, well, I think I can make it work.
And I said, well, we'll ask for forgiveness later. Maybe we can do some good.
Josh was the one that kind of egged me on to hotwire the boat. If you ask him about that, he's got his version of the story, because he was the one that was there when I said I could hotwire the boat, and he saw that look in my eye, knowing that something's about to happen, and he kind of poked me, encouraged me into it.
And sure enough, when he struck out to go get his tools and head towards that boat, I looked at these two guys that were hanging out with us. I think they were from St. John Parish. I said, look, y'all, when he gets that thing going, because he will, y'all better be ready to go, because he ain't gonna stop. And sure enough, whenever I was inside and I heard that thing crank up, I said, yeah, there he goes. And the one I see running out to the boat was my wife, Tracy. She struck out and ran out there and got in with him, and I think that's the last time I saw her for about a day and a half. When she did come back, her hair was all wild and she was soaking wet, and she had, I think, seen the world and back.
Seeing it and seeing the water come up was emotional for me, and then after the water had came up and then we got the airboat running, adrenaline just took over. And we stayed gone for 3 to 4 days straight. We'd come here, change our socks, and then head back out.
Jason already is a good fella. I'm not sure why they did it, but they parked his airboat here at the fire station and left it. We needed it, and so it was hot wired, and we used it for 2 days. He's aware of that now. And then we had a little laugh about it at a meeting last week, but we did use the boat a lot. We brought medical patients out to the ambulances with it. We evacuated Carter Plantation with the airboat and some mud boats and our big 5-ton truck. So the boat was needed in a big way, and it served a good purpose here. I don't recommend hot wiring the sheriff's boat, but we did it, and it's okay now. He gave me a pardon, by the way.
When we went to Carter Plantation, they had the family of 7 or 8, and Wayne that was driving the boat, he said, well, either y'all can get out right here, wait for me, I can fit more in the boat instead of making multiple trips so that family can stay together, because they had some children with them. So me and Lloyd had got out the boat in shallow water. It was up to our ankles probably at that time, but it was just now coming up. And then Wayne had left and went and dropped off the people at the front of Carter Plantation. And as he was going up there was a lot of other families flagging him down. So me and Lloyd had stayed back and said, just keep bringing the families out. We'll go door to door and make sure that everybody's out and that wants to get out. So we walked towards the front of Carter Plantation, and before we knew it, the water was like up to our chest.
Every time we made an attempt to proceed out of Carter to go do more rescues, more and more people were just flooding out of their homes, because at that point in time there was no other way to get out. There was no truck going to come get them. Our little task of going in to get that family of 8 or 9 turned into an all-day ordeal, and I think we rescued somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 100 people that were stranded. Plus, I think Brian and them took the high water truck in and made a couple more rescues where the water was shallower. It was just very perplexing, the water and how fast it came up in that subdivision. It was just unbelievable.
It changes things. I did rescues, and this was even during the day, around Carter Plantation, which is an area that I'm pretty familiar with. I was lost. I had to completely reorient myself for getting around because all your landmarks are gone. On top of that, the water's moving so fast that you had to account for the current and the flow and plan ahead where you were going to go. It was unlike anything I've experienced around here.
Carter Plantation, and that was a really eye-opening experience. There's, you know, the golf course was, you couldn't hardly see it. These people with these really expensive homes, some of them had just been built, and they got water, you know, 2 feet deep in their house, and they're sending over their kids trying to get out. That was a real sobering experience that, you know, it's one of the lessons I took away from it. Mother Nature doesn't differentiate between your bank account, how much money you have, influence, or nothing like that. It affects all of us the same way.
I had a difficult rescue down a whole family. Had a boy, 3-4-year-old boy, who was having an allergic reaction. His eye was swelling up. Allergic reaction can get real bad real fast and can become very serious. So even a minor one you take seriously. In a flood environment, even more so, because the time it would take to get him out. They were on the other side of a river that was chest deep and flowing. And we knew they were there, but we didn't have any way to get to them because it was, you know, flooded road, dry road, flooded road, dry road. You couldn't get a boat, you couldn't get a vehicle. I ended up walking through there, and I'm talking with Josh on the radio, on the fire radio, telling him what I've got and what I need. And the conversation ended with, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll do something for you. That was Josh. I bring the people out in a little flat bottom boat, 2 at a time. And when I get the first load of them out, there's Josh's Jeep with some strangers in it that had made it through the water. He had just put somebody in his personal vehicle and said, you know, go for it. And that's how we got those people out. Headed to a report of people on the roof. And I had to get across the street where the river was afoot and flowing rapidly. And I miscalculated the speed of the current. I went up and around and went to shoot over the road. And the momentum of the boat combined with the speed of the water shot me into the tree line so fast that we really almost crashed into the trees. It was a bad moment. I don't know what it was, instinct or just whatever. I pushed the boat over, stomped on the gas, and at the last second it spun around and we came back up. But that was probably the scariest moment because I had 2 firefighters with me at the time. And I'm imagining, you know, a flash before your eyes sort of thing. It wasn't quite that dramatic, but I'm imagining some of the boat wrecks I've been on. And there's some of the nastiest traumas that you'll do are the boat accidents, and I almost caused one.
And we stopped at the clubhouse right there, and they had a huge number of people just standing around, didn't really know what to do. A lot of people that were there on vacation. Some of them had their luggage with them. And I took a picture. There's a sign in front of Carter Plantation that said the clubhouse was right there, and it's Whitewater Rapids in front of that sign. It looks like something you would see in Colorado. 4-foot tall Whitewater Rapids just rolling through there. And, you know, if I didn't know it was Springfield, Louisiana, I'd be waiting to see a group of tourists on a raft going through there. It was unbelievable how fast that water was moving. Anybody walking through there would have been swept away. There's no doubt in my mind.
I was wearing sandals all through the day, and somebody commented on the allergic reaction I was having because I had red stripes on my feet. And that was from every time I stepped off the airboat, I was getting eaten by ants. They will ball up in a ball and float until they hit something, and then they swarm up and grab it. And if that's your leg, it's not good. I didn't have that happen, fortunately, but they'll also head to whatever high ground they can find. And you know, I'm always taking the people to whatever dry ground, and then you step off and there's ants all throughout the water. So yeah, it's definitely a miserable part, and it was a couple of days before the itching and the redness went away in my feet. In the last flood where the water just came up and came down, and how the water is now, it's full of all sorts of nasty bacterias and funky stuff. And I'm not one to be concerned with that, but anytime we have a trauma in the river, just under normal circumstances, it's a high priority just for the infection factor. You asked me about people going into this water, that it should be avoided. Any kind of open sore, open scratch. I ended up on antibiotics from the last flood just because of an infection that wouldn't heal in my arm.
I had made a few trips out Highway 42 west of town, and I went out to the Hutchinson CC Road at 42 at the little store and was picking up people. And the water rose so quickly on one of my trips. When I was returning, the truck was full of people. I'm not even sure how many people were in it, but when I came to the Bloody River Bridge, the water had been running over the road right there But within a 30 to 45 minute time period of me picking up a lot of people at the store on my way back, it was running over the rails. And I really lost a lot of confidence in the bridge at that point, you know, because I'm thinking that's a lot of pressure on the bridge, but at least I know it's still there. That was the most nervous I was, because that was racing, just raging water going across there, and the turbulence it was creating was incredible, and it would show you the force of the current coming through.
The bridge that he was speaking of, we actually had to take a pike pole and find the bridge one night because we thought it was gone. It was completely under 6+ feet of water. All our markers on the edge of the road were gone. We could no longer see where we were going. We were just going by memory.
And I still can't tell you the reason why they even thought they could. Took a Ford pickup truck and attempted to cross the Blood River Bridge on Blood River Road. Now granted, the water's 6 feet deep, 5 to 6 feet deep, raging across the road there. We could barely see the tops of the signs that marked the guardrails. That was our guide to cross it in our truck, in our big truck. I got a phone call from a resident down there and said, "Hey Brian, somebody just went across and they washed their truck away." So a couple of us loaded up and took off down there real fast. And when I pulled up to the bridge, the water was in there on the floorboard of the truck with us. I saw a male subject and a female both hanging on to the tree limbs of a tree. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is really happening. So we pulled up and we let out the rope with the flotation devices to them, and then we pulled them back to the truck. And I mean, it definitely, timing was everything, and we were able to save their lives.
Think about those operations, the rescue operations like what Brian was talking about earlier. It's amazing because the guys that were with him, those are some of the guys that their house had flooded. They were already in fireman mode and had to turn off hey, my loss of property, I still got my life, let me get out here and serve. And you know, these guys are out there, you know, putting their life on the line, and that's amazing to see. If I remember correctly, it was 33 firemen and 16 of them. So of the 33 firemen, 16 of them have received damage to their home, and they're out there still serving the community. It's amazing because 2 of the guys on that rescue mission basically had that tucked in the back of their brain. They're out there playing a role in saving somebody's life.
Walking through the middle of Springfield, waiting on the airboats to bring in some more that was flooded out. Very close to water. Everything in Springfield is under. It is very, very fast, rapid water.
We'll be back to you so I can get a bag.
All right. Hey, wait, let me jump in.
Driving the truck in the high water at night was a very challenging, one of probably the most challenging parts of the operation.
We're driving down the road and it's pitch black. And we ran off the road a little bit and almost got stuck in the 5-ton. So he's like, "I need you to get out. I know you're gonna hate me." I'm like, all right. I get out. I'm in chest deep water with my flashlight, and you can't see your hand underneath the water. If it's right on top of that water, you couldn't see it. You have snakes running past you. I'm like, last thing I need to do is get bit. I don't want to get bit today. Don't want to get bit. Don't want to get bit.
No way to judge where the edge of the road and the ditch met, especially on the parish roads. It's really, really difficult. You know, all the mailboxes were underwater, and at times, the headlights of the truck were underwater. So now you're driving in pitch black. So what I learned to focus on were the knobbies of the tires on the blacktop. So you just have to go slow, and it did. It made every mission take forever, but safety was always first. So you don't just keep barreling on down the road thinking, well, we're going to be okay because we're the firefighters. No, we can get hurt just as fast as anyone else. So we have to remember to be safe. So I did. The truck literally would be idling to where you could feel the knobbies rolling across the asphalt, and you could drive with your eyes closed and just feel for the roadway. And that's a lot of way I could describe it, because when the headlights were underwater, it was pitch black. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it.
I would listen on the right-hand side. You could actually hear the tires, the ribs on the tires, clicking as it would click. If he got too far off the edge of the road, they would stop making a noise and it would get into soft mush and you wouldn't hear it no more. So we knew to veer back to the left. There's cups in the middle of the road. That was a big lifesaver for us, actually. If we wouldn't have had them, we would have been really lost, because the chief would drive till he felt them wheels hit them cups and keep it in between the tires. We stayed in the middle of the road the entire time. But it wasn't a one-person effort. It was 3, 4 people. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. There's no way possible.
I do remember one night there was when we had to go to the back of Blood River to get I think a lady out from back there. It was me, Brian, and Lloyd, and it felt like it took us about 3 hours to get from the front of Blood River to the back. But I remember looking, and for miles, there was a straightaway that I was familiar with from driving on the road a lot. There was a straightaway that I can see from the headlights, and it was nothing but water. And it was right at our feet. And I was thinking, how is he driving this huge truck? And I think it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And it was silence for a lot of times, but I knew Brian, and I put my trust in him.
There's one area that we were actually in, down on Blood River Road here. The road is, it's called a super angle. So it's pitched and it's tilted. We couldn't exactly lean for the right side edge of the road or left side edge of the road, because if we went off either one of those, we were in a lot of trouble. So those took a lot of extra time going through those areas. That was our only high points. We thought the water would be shallow there. It wasn't.
Some spots we were like, okay, the water's in the truck, and then it would go down. And then it would come back up, and we would have to hurry up and pick our radios up and jackets and everything off the floor.
The truck has holes in it. It's designed to go through water to the top of the cab. We didn't try that. We were brave, but we're not that brave. When we were going through the bridge to rescue the second, I don't know if it was the second, it may have been the 20th, group of people out of the subdivision, the water was coming in the truck. It's not a watertight truck. It's got holes so it can drain out. We would cross, it would fill the truck up over our laps. Everything in the truck would get soaking wet.
The stress of driving that truck under those conditions with 25 to 40 people with babies and everything they owned in the back of that truck, you know, I owed it to them to keep that truck right on that road, keep it upright, and get them to safety. You know, I tried to maintain my composure because I had to. There were a few times early on, especially when I saw it beginning to happen, when the reality was hitting, that it was hard to control my emotions in the truck. And I was happy that everybody was out of the truck and didn't know I was in there crying, you know, and I'd get it back together before they'd come see me. And but we did. We had to focus so much on what we were doing. We had to put those emotions to the side for a little while. But at the same time, it's my home. Everything I know, everyone I know, everybody's being affected and losing everything that they've ever worked for in their life. The last thing that I can help them with is to make sure they stay alive. And that's what our mission was.
Most impressive things is, you know, you surround yourself with people who are capable of doing amazing things. You know, in a fire department, you have a tower of a chief who can, you know, lead you into a daring situation and come out, you know, on the other end. You got, you know, gentlemen who have done this for years, who have just great instinct and great courage and poise. And the things you remember the most are those people who you didn't expect to rise to towering heights. One particular person for me is my wife, Tracy. Tracy did a great job of never backing down, getting right into the fight, because, you know, when we show up to an incident of any magnitude with fire service, You never know how that's going to play out, what role you're going to play. And to see her go right into the fray, into the unknown, and to brave it, you know, put her own person in harm's way was amazing to see.
You know, when the 911 system went down, that really forced us to reassess what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, because we didn't have any way of knowing what was going on in outside areas. And at that point, I know we basically started dispatching ourselves, and Josh's wife, Tracy, took over being our dispatcher for quite a number of days.
It was hard, but I felt like I was helping a lot of people that needed help. We were able to send help where it was needed at the time. It wasn't hard because I felt comfortable doing it, but it was a lot. It was a lot of calls coming in. The higher the water got, the more calls we were taking in.
The most inspiring things for me was Tracy Randall. The 911 center here got flooded and went down. And she's been a firefighter for many years, but as far as I know, she's got no dispatch experience. She sat in the office here with 2 radios and a cell phone and dispatched for the whole east side of the parish. Dispatch would contact her, or she would take in calls. We even took in rescue calls through Facebook. And she would organize whoever it was to respond, whatever district it was, and dispatch them.
Well, I walked in one evening coming back from a call, and we had one of our neighbors was answering the phone, and I wasn't sure what she was doing, but they were like, we're dispatching from here. And the girl that was helping, she said, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but they're saying I'm doing a good job, so I'm gonna keep it up. So I kind of jumped in and helped her, and eventually she had to go home to her family. I think her house actually had started flooding. And from then on, I was at the phones taking all the 911 calls and then dispatching them out to the fire department that the call was for about 72 hours straight.
We build the team around us, but when your home team is the strongest one out there, it makes you feel pretty good. I'm very, very proud of Tracy and everything she did. She definitely made my family very proud, as well as his fire department family.
Livingston Parish, you know, has 3 rivers running through it. You have the Natalbany River, you have the Tickfall River, you have the Amite River, and they all feed from north of us, starting in Mississippi, which parts of Mississippi's flooded pretty bad. Well, all that water running down, I don't know what the estimates turned out to be, 24, 30 inches of rain, whatever it was in 48 hours, basically turned all 3 of our rivers into one river. And it ran all the way through the parish on its way down to the lake. And there's nothing anybody could control there. I would like to think that most of the people are gonna just roll their sleeves up and get back after it. I think most will. Some are worried. I heard a lot of stories. I was picking people up in our 5-ton truck in the middle of the night, and they were very just devastated because they had lost everything in Katrina and relocated to this area because it was safe, and built their homes, got nice places, driving back forth to New Orleans to work, and now they've lost everything again. So what do you tell those folks to restore their confidence that everything's going to be okay? That's a hard thing to fathom in your mind. Lose everything twice in your lifetime to a natural disaster. How can you be comforted and who can give you the confidence to really believe that it won't happen again?
If you fast forward from everything that took place to now, it's really interesting because you can go 30 miles in each direction from our small town and you can see piles of debris still out there. People are still doing the best they can. They're working hard, but these piles represent a lot of hard work. And I hate to say that it would ever be something that you're proud of, but it's good to know that folks are not giving up. Folks are still fighting. And I think it all stems from the fact that these people didn't go through this alone. Because as a people, we would be defeated if we just felt alone. But the fact that we went through it together, the fact that so many people had to suffer the same fate, it made it bearable.
You ride around and you see the mounds of debris in front of people's yards, and you realize, and even my yard, you realize that's their life, that's their belongings, that's their home. Those piles of debris started to appear before the water was gone. I'm still running rescues in the neighborhood, and there's a guy in his house already gutting and remodeling. It won't be long. Everybody will be back to normal. The precautions and changes will be made to account for this new standard of water level, which no one had ever seen before. Some houses will be raised, people will build levees around their house, they'll make adjustments, but it won't be long. Everybody will be back to normal.
Just to seeing a lot of the elderly people that we saw that's been here their whole lives and never flooded, and now they've just lost their homes and everything they had in it. We had a lot of people with disabilities that we had to go help get them out of their homes, and that was very challenging. You know, for one, moving a disabled person takes a little bit of effort on everybody's part, but try doing it in waist-deep water when you can't see where you're walking. You don't want to slip and fall and hurt them. You don't want to hurt yourself either. So a lot of teamwork came out of this. As bad as the tragedy is, the people, the citizens of our community stepped up in our churches. My goodness, it really restores your faith in humanity to see the things that have gone on in our community and how everybody's pulled together.
Rich or poor, everybody was in the same boat. And that's what was going on is a lot of the same people that, you know, they may not have been the wealthiest, but they were out there with boats and pickup trucks, whatever they can use to get people out.
Hey everybody, it's been a long day supporting our community, and it's amazing the outpouring of support we've had, and just got people from all over the state, all over the area coming in to help us out, and it's just amazing to see folks come and do that. Particularly, I got these folks right here. They actually came out to Springfield from the South Shore. They traveled across all that water on a boat. It's been a long 3 days, but we are at the fire station now. I've been going around the clock and got a lot of people asking out of the area how they can help. Got a lot of people asking how they can be helped. So hopefully, if you can still get communications, and I know cell phone signal as of this moment is not working in Springfield, we are basically using internet hard lines to communicate. So if you can see this, what we're looking to do is we got firemen basically going around the clock trying to help out. The water is starting to drop, but anybody who's wanting to help out and participate in some of the you know, bring a boat out, you know, maybe a lifted truck or something like that, coordinate that through myself at the fire station. You can come by here or send me a message, and I'll do what we can to get you lined out.
We had people come during the height of the storm, as well as, you know, up to a week or more later, from Mississippi and southern Louisiana and other places that have had disasters in their history. They came and helped. We had people from Mississippi, volunteer fire departments, come and stay here for a couple of weeks and cover our routine calls while our firefighters are trying to recover their lives and continue with the flood work.
Effort of everybody coming from different places, countless places, like up north and East Texas. And I remember meeting people from Florida and Alabama just coming to help with their boats and bringing food and blankets and simple necessities, toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, soap, and trying to help out as much as they could was just inspiring. It was the drive we needed to keep going.
I heard it referred to as the Cajun Navy. People that I knew, people that I didn't know, that just turned out with their boats and worked. And they weren't just goofing off, they worked, running rescues. You know, I'm used to dealing with calculated risk in dangerous environments. These are people that just turned out to help. That was one of the most inspiring things. As I was working Blood River, or Carter Plantation, towards when we started getting things under control, It was because there were so many people out helping. I'd still be out doing rescues if it wasn't for them.
It's one of the things that I've taken away about this community. Everybody pitched in to help each other out. All of the politics went out the window. That was a really great experience.
There were so many that just took up the call, guys who owned boats, guys who had big trucks, who were just out there getting people out. It shouldn't surprise me with those kind of people, the quality of people, that we had 0 loss of life in the largest natural disaster in this community. It is amazing. So I'm truly blessed to be a part of this community, and I can't tell you how much an honor it is to have served alongside so many people that put so many other people before themselves. So I thank y'all. Hello everybody. Josh Randall here on a very dry main street, Springfield, Louisiana. I do believe that the great flood of 2016, it wasn't water, it was love. The great flood of 2016 is going to be the outpouring of love in this community. So let's keep it going, y'all. Got a lot to smile about. Gonna take care of the people that are taking on water down south. Praying for y'all. We're coming to get you. Got a lot of good people out there working. Man, 2 guys I grew up next door to my whole life, Barry and JoJo Wall, working around the clock trying to help people. And I'm pretty sure they covered every road that they could, in a truck, in a boat, airboat. Hadn't stopped. Every time I see them guys, they're exhausted, and that's just the guys that I see. There's a ton out there like that. So y'all keep it up, guys. Very proud of y'all. Proud of Springfield, small town USA. I love y'all. Everybody take care, God bless, and let us know how we can help. We're listening. Thank you.